I'm Charlie Wink. This is the Wink Book Club, and if you want to get rich, you came to the right place. Today we're covering some key lessons from Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, basically covering the stuff that I think is the most valuable from this book. First of which being that the poor and the middle class work for money. The rich have money work for them. So Robert explains the cycle that we all get into. You know, you get up, you go to work, and you pay bills. It's just this repeating thing, and people kind of get caught in that. It's called the rat race. You know, we run out of time to really think about our investments or really actively think about what we're doing. And he goes on to explain that as most people get used to this framework for life, as their income increases, you know, they get a promotion or whatever at work, you know, new title, new job, their expenses increase as well. And then it kind of leaves them constantly running in this hamster wheel of, you know, keeping up with the Joneses or just getting used to these new phases of life and just ramping up the expenses with it. And that's something that we don't need to do. We're kind of trained to do it in the like capitalist way of living. But it's really better if we can put our money to work for ourselves rather than just buying all this fancy stuff that we don't really need. The most important thing from the book, the key, the thesis of the entire thing, if you don't get this, like you might as well just throw the book away, is that you need to learn the difference between an asset and a liability, and you need to purchase assets. So what's the difference? An asset puts money in your pocket. A liability takes money out of your pocket. So an apartment, a boat, a car, those are all liabilities. They take money out of your pocket every month. You don't really get anything out of those. An asset puts money in. So let's say that you buy a stock and it returns 10%. That would be an asset. An asset could be a house that you rent out to someone else or an apartment that you rent to someone else. A house, there's this controversial bit in the book, you know, he says that your house is not an asset. If you own a home and you live in it, it's a liability because you owe money to the bank and you don't get anything out of it. All you do is pay the bank every month. You might have, it might appreciate, but you're not realizing those gains. So therefore, if you have a personal home, in his words, he says that's a liability. So to get rich, you got to focus on your assets. And they fall into a couple categories I'll kind of go through right now. So businesses that don't require your presence. If you have a business that needs a lot of your attention all the time, then you just become an employee again, right? You're trying to get free here. So a business that can run while you're not there, that would be considered an asset. Stocks, bonds, royalties, things that are going to generate value, you know, whether you're there or not, whether you're actively doing anything or not. You know, you need to watch all that stuff, of course, but puts money in your pocket, well, you don't really do anything. Income generated from real estate. So if you have an apartment that you're renting out or a house you're renting out, that's an asset. Basically anything that has value and produces income or appreciates with a market where people will be willing to buy it. And another thing that I would add to this is that we live in like an attention economy. So this book, in my opinion, could be an example of an asset because he writes this book one time, he goes on interviews, markets it, whatever, and now it sells itself. Every time somebody buys this, he makes money and he's done no additional work. So thinking of, you know, how you can leverage attention economies to build your asset column as well. The next topic that's covered in the book is this idea of taxes and corporations. So middle class people are the ones that tend to pay the most in taxes, while rich people shelter their wealth through corporations. There's a lot of legal incentives that corporations get because governments want to drive business. They need revenue, and to do that, they need businesses to operate. So there are a lot more tax benefits associated with corporations than just individual income. And Robert basically advocates that when you get to a certain size and you make enough money, it makes sense to get a corporation. That also removes personal liability from you. So a corporation is kind of like an entity that is its own thing. It's separate from you. You own the corporation, but the corporation owns all of the money, all the assets, liabilities, and it's kind of one step removed from you. And he doesn't really get into the details of filing all this stuff, but just the general idea that that's what the rich do. The rich shelter themselves with corporations. And there are a lot of benefits to that. The next big idea from the book is that the rich invent money. So to illustrate this point, he tells a story about how he flipped this house. So he went into a bankruptcy auction and he got a house that the market value was $75,000. He got it for $20,000 and he only had to put 10% down. So he borrowed $2,000 from a friend. Then he went and ran ads saying $75,000 house for $60,000. Like, this is a great deal. Come buy this house. And he immediately got people to bid on it. So he then basically sold the house for $60,000, got $40,000 out of thin air, and he paid his friend whatever $200 for the loan, and he kind of pulled money out of thin air. But you know, really the message is that you want to look for opportunities. Once you're financially literate and you know certain markets or certain businesses, you want to keep your eyes open for opportunities where value has been looked over and there's an opportunity for you to step in and make money. And that's kind of the key idea about inventing money, is just keep your eyes open to opportunity and know when the time to jump in is. Another important concept from the book is that you should work to learn and not work for money. So what does that mean? You want your job to develop the life skills that you want to have. An example of this could be a welding job would pay a lot, but you know, in 5 years, if that's all you do, you're still going to be standing for 8 hours a day, staring into a bright light, breathing fumes, welding. Versus if you weld for a little bit, maybe take a pay cut and you go into sales for a couple of years, get out of that, and then you'll have all the skills to run your own business. So maybe your own fabrication business, something like that. So basically, you want to proactively think about what you want to do with your life, and in your work, you want to develop the skills that will help get you there. And you shouldn't look first at your paycheck. You know, you want to look at first, like, what am I doing? What am I building here? I think it's really valuable, and I think a lot of people don't have that mindset when they look for work. That's going to conclude this video. Thank you for sticking around. Obviously, I left a ton of stuff out. I highly recommend that you read the full book. I'll leave a link in the description, and if you use that, it'll support this channel, so that'd be great if you could. And leave a comment with some assets you're thinking about buying. My goal for this channel is to keep sharing information like this and interview smart people, just get the information out. So if you enjoyed this, subscribe, stick around, and I'll see you in the next one.